Like people are more and more marketing lifestyles rather than commodities, right? Like instead of saying you need a car, this car because it's good at this and it has four-wheel drive and it has this much horsepower, blah blah blah. It's more like you should buy this car because it's going to make you a cool person.
Yeah, that was a trend that started in the 50s or something when people got tired of selling products
Yeah, and
and
I think because of that, like we're more and more conflating money with identity.
is it money though? Because the way you said it, it made it sound like it's not just money.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not just money anymore. It used to be just money, and money was just something that you'd got, and then you spent it on the things that you wanted.
Hmm.
Whereas now it's like money is who you are.
But is it just you said it like
How much you get.
it's you said it like it's your job that defines you, like you being
It
a
is
tech worker or
anything to
whatever.
do with like money has become part of your identity. Whereas before it was more about like relationships.
Explain that for me. I don't get that really.
So like before, people would have they still had meaning in their lives,
Yeah.
but they didn't have meaning in their lives based on their work. That's not who they were and what they had. That's not what they who they were. Who they were was their family, their friends, and their relationships.
Yeah, I
And
agree with
now
that.
it's like, yeah, and now it's like instead of it being your relationships, that's what's important to you. It's more anything to do with money is what's important to you. Anything that you have, the thing that you do for your money is who you are. How you spend that money is who you are, rather than who you spending your time with. I guess
I
it's
agree
more
with that
about
to some extent, but my problem with that is like I don't think it's a money thing. I think it's like you said, it's a job thing. Like you adopt the identity of what job you have, but to a greater degree than before, because before you weren't thinking about, oh, what identity should a person with this job have. Maybe you did, but not to the extent that you do now. Like if you're a
yeah,
like for example, this is just a superficial example, but like take the example of like all the new chef people, all of them have like giant tattoos. That wasn't a result of like all the chefs going out being like, hey, we're chefs, we need to get tattoos. It was like over 10 years they saw people who are chefs getting tattoos and they were like, hey, I like tattoos, I can get them too. And it just like it balls up into this identity that you have. Now it's like if you don't have tattoos and you're a chef, people are like, you must not be one of those cool modern chefs shaking up the scene. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So
I get it.
it's
I get what
like
you're trying to say.
you adopt the narrative that is spelled out for your job and you like identify with it, which is like I think a problem at large with our society is that
It is. It's really segregating.
you identify with certain things and then you like, but it's not you identify with certain things in terms of what defines that thing and also by what opposes that thing. Does that make
Yeah,
like if I'm a liberal, I'll be like, oh, I'm a liberal because I have these views on abortion and minimum wage and stuff like that. But also be like, I definitely don't want people to not get abortions, and I don't want to keep the Mexicans out of our country. Like, which is a
yeah,
problem because you're not just believing in a set of beliefs, you're also believing those beliefs to be opposite certain beliefs, which which
yeah.
which is a problem, right?
I get it. I just think it's a two-part thing. I think it's
Hmm.
also like, sure, your job is part of who you are, but I think the other half of that is also how you spend your money. I think that's also becoming a huge part. I mean, it's informed by what kind of lifestyle you think your job person should have,
Oh yeah,
but it's also like
I
how
agree
it's
with
like
that more.
marketed to you.
I agree with that more than just money. I guess I didn't read into the money thing. I just took it at
Yeah, it's
face
like
value.
it's how you make your money and it's how you spend your money.
So you're saying like in a related thing, I saw an article recently which said that like a large percentage of young people, 18 to 35-year-olds
Mm.
probably, spend a lot of money trying to keep up with what they perceive to be their friends' belongings
Yeah.
or lifestyle or whatever.
Yeah, like millennials spend so much on going out to eat.
But I
It's
thought it was
crazy.
more like a live in the moment kind of YOLO thing. I didn't think it was like a keeping up with the Joneses thing.
It's a keeping up with the Joneses thing.
To be honest, and
Nobody wants to say that they're broke, right?
this is probably a reflection on me. For me, keeping up with the Joneses thing is like I think less of the millennial generation, if that's why they do it. Be like, oh, I
I
only go,
think,
but is that an Instagram thing? Because I know Instagram actually has exploded in popularity the past like 2 to 3 years. Wouldn't you
yeah,
say?
all the Tumblr people are going there now.
Why?
I don't know. It's more visual, I guess.
Tumblr's not really visual, I guess, and also it's hard to
Well,
use.
Tumblr used to be really visual.
Did it?
It's getting more and more. It's getting less and less visual.
Why is that?
I don't know, but I guess it's because there's more and more fan fiction on there, and
Yeah.
less like pictures and
Well,
art.
also, wasn't there a big problem where the fan fiction was getting copyrighted a bunch? Like, oh, you can't use this fan fiction and stuff like that. Because
That was a thing.
I don't know, was it a
That
thing?
makes sense.
I heard that
I
somewhere.
mean, it should be protected. It is still your work. I
No,
think
but
that all original work should be protected.
or it's not completely original work. You're using somebody else's intellectual property to do your stuff, but you're still doing stuff, granted, but it's based off of somebody else's work. It would be like if I wrote a book based on the characters or the world of Lord of the Rings. That's not acceptable in this world. With current
It's
copyright
like
law.
it's hard, but while those people own the characters, they don't own your story.
Yeah, but what I'm
If your
saying is,
characters develop, then they don't own the end characters. They own the beginning characters.
but that's where the copyright problems come in because you're using
Yeah.
their
I mean, it's
characters.
hard, right? But I guess it's like, for me, I consider it less than the actual, like, the actual story or whatever. Like, if you took someone's story and you wrote it in your own words, not paraphrasing,
Mm-hmm.
but you did it your own way, then I think that's completely new. I
Yeah,
think the only thing that doesn't, like, only thing that counts as plagiarism is if you copy paste or if you paraphrase.
but okay, let's say that. But we all know why that won't exist, right? That's not a how do you say acceptable outcome for the copyright industry. Because if you make original characters, first of all, copyright in the US today is like 75 years after your death is copyright. And
Yeah,
it's not going down anytime soon. Like, and it's
of
different.
course not.
Its definitions are pretty broad. Like, we, as people who basically live on the internet, we know that there are a lot of YouTube people who get into trouble with copyright because of stuff like, oh,
Yeah,
I use this one clip or whatever. No, I don't think there's much to say about that.
I know. But I mean, with more and more media becoming more and more, I guess, what's the word for it?
Polarizing.
Open sourced?
Oh yeah, you're right. Open source is a good way to put it. Actually, that's actually a really good way to put
Yeah.
it.
Then people have to understand, like, how does that work copyright wise?
I think
Law
that
will catch up, I think.
I mean technically it should, but if the people who make the law don't catch up, then law won't catch up.
I think laws is made or rather enforced a lot more bottom up than that, because I think a lot of what matters is like what lawsuits certain cases, like what the ruling is.
Okay, you
And sure, like the actual law is a thing, but like also the interpretation of that in court
there is
is
that. There
important.
is that. No law is like set in stone to such a degree that a judge can't do anything about it. But
Exactly.
what about like okay, you said bottom up law, right? But if you think about it, we talked about this before with the lobbying thing, but like lobbyists sometimes they just write a law and they give that law to the politician to put into the house or something. To such a degree that sometimes the politicians forget to remove the lobbyist's name from the document when they submit it. They don't even change it. Like they didn't even put that much work into it. So
I don't
how
understand how lobbying is legal.
Lobbying is legal because of a law called Citizens United, which said that corporations are people and that the way that they express their support is through money.
Yeah. Corporations aren't people.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, by definition, corporations are not people because a corporation has limited liability, whereas a person has unlimited liability. So if you have an LLC, a limited liability corporation, you can only be held accountable for the corporation is the one that is held accountable for your transgressions and not you as a CEO.
It's
But
convenient,
yeah,
basically.
so it's like in half the law, a corporation is not a person, and in the other half of the law, the corporation is a person, which completely blows my mind. It's like,
See, that's what I. Corruption is a huge problem.
yeah, but
And
the,
I think that's
the
probably the biggest problem that capitalism faces is the separation of business and government,
yeah, it's kind of like
or rather the interests of the business and the interests of the government.
it's kind of like new
I
church
don't
and
know how to
state.
solve that.
It's like the new church and state, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. And I don't know how to, I guess that's like the one thing. Corruption is like the one thing that I can't solve
Well,
when it comes to
I
capitalism.
have an idea. We read the same blockchain article, very detailed blockchain article. So, what do you think about like a blockchain based government? How do you think that would work?
Badly,
Why?
because there's different kinds of access to it.
How's that?
Well, I think that if a blockchain government were to exist, it would have to have some kind of like more people. Like if you were able to have more
How is it? Okay, wait, explain that.
chains or whatever.
No, wait, no, that's not how it works, bro. Okay. Wait, what?
No,
What chains? There's only one chain. It's the blockchain.
you know what I'm trying to like. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I don't think so. Explain what you were trying to say, and I'll couch it in blockchain terms for you.
Okay. Well, what I was trying to say is that like the reason bottom-up government might not work is that someone would have to oversee who gets access to it and who doesn't. For example, if we had a bottom-up government now, like wouldn't the rich people have more say? Or people with louder voices would have more say,
But
metaphorically.
I mean, but that's based on the assumption that they already don't have more say. And I would say that a rich person now has exponentially more say than a poor person. Whereas,
They do. But if you want like an ideal government, everyone has to have equal say.
yeah, but that's what I'm coming to. In blockchain, theoretically, everybody does have equal say because you all get one vote, and that's the limit of your influence. You're cutting out some of the like back channel negotiations that can happen between a politician and a lobbyist or a rich person, but some of
But
the
like, can't people buy votes?
how could they buy
Or is
votes? They can buy votes no more than they can buy votes now,
which they can.
which they technically can't, but they can because they buy ads that influence you to vote in a certain way, and then you vote in a certain way.
I mean, that's a legal way to do it.
That's the legal way to do it. That's the only way that it is being done in the U.S. as far as I know.
Sure, but like, you're my friend. I tell you, vote for this person.
Yeah, but if I don't agree with them, why would I vote? You have to.
I mean, it's like, you're assuming that everyone has an opinion and everyone is informed.
Yeah, but that could happen now too. You're just eliminating some of the
People aren't.
people do that now
They're
too.
not all informed.
Oh
What?
no, I
Not
know
be
people are not
informed
informed.
and just vote.
They do that
They
now.
do.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump won.
Well, no, I think the Trump thing was like people thinking they were informed, but they were actually misinformed and then they voted, which is equally dangerous.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a Facebook problem. But I think like the problem since the beginning of democracy has been that people are not informed. What the heck? One sec. Do you hear this beeping noise? Oh, I get it. We're having technical difficulties. Wait. Did she put... Wait, did you put me on hold or did I put you on hold?
I don't know. I didn't put anyone on hold.
I didn't press anything and it randomly went on hold. Okay. What were we talking about? Representative bottom-up democracy. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain how my system works and then you critique it, okay?
Okay.
So the blockchain is a decentralized
Mhm.
ledger. So one of the good things about using blockchain for voting is that everyone can vote and you can't tamper with the votes that people cast unless you tamper with
Mhm.
the ledger that exists on potentially hundreds of millions of machines, right? So it
Mm.
makes it a safe way to vote because there's no way to alter the vote without altering
Mm.
data that exists on like basically everywhere.
Mm.
So at this, what I want to happen is like have no like House of Representatives or like elected representatives, and you just vote on every proposal that concerns you by yourself.
Mm.
Now, of course, there's a huge problem, which is having an informed public, but that's a problem that exists in
Mm.
all kinds of democracy, right? So, like for example, say
Mhm.
if I live in Vancouver City, right, and then I have these like district like proposals that I have to vote on, I can just vote on them from my computer, and it's secure because it exists on a blockchain that is on everybody's computer, not just Vancouver.
Mhm.
Like the whole world will have this thing, and then BC state also has a proposal. I can vote on that as well because it concerns me, and then like Canada as a country. But this opens up the possibility for like me to vote on like large scale proposals on the scale of like the world, like, oh,
Mm.
should we do things to curb climate change as a world? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my like idea. But how would you deal with that? Now, let me see if I can address some of your concerns, or if you can. I'm sure you can find some stuff that I haven't
All
thought of.
right. Well, I have a few concerns.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is who is at the end of this? Like, who is gonna see there were this many votes for this and there were this many votes for that?
Oh,
I mean, everyone can view it at any time, but
yes, yes. No,
who's gonna pass it off to the enforcers?
you don't have
Who's
to.
gonna say, okay,
Oh,
like
there's.
who's gonna draw up the legislation and give it to the multinational? In the case of climate change, for example, say everyone in the
Oh,
world
no, no, no. You don't.
decided,
You don't just vote on like an arbitrary decision. You'd vote on a piece of legislation. So, like, for me, how you
that
said
anyone can propose, basically.
that anyone can
Okay.
propose, and the good ones, which we see in like public forums all the time, is like the good ones rise to the top. So
Yeah.
the ones that have widespread support will be the ones that garner enough attention to be voted on. And the vote would be like self-evident. Like you would vote using a smart contract. So that would be like you click vote, and at the end you couldn't see who voted what way. You would only know that the decision was this in the end.
So I guess like whoever wrote the legislation would be
No, 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 no,
in
no,
charge
no.
of.
If you make it a public smart contract, anybody on the blockchain could see the results at once.
Yeah. I'm saying not like who can see the results. I know that anyone can see the results.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying more like who's gonna print the legislation and then present it to the company? Like who is the representative? So I'm guessing that would be the person who wrote it.
Well, you don't need one person to print the legislation because why does someone need to present it when it's already been ratified, right? You just have to implement it. Now that is the main concern I have with this.
Yeah, like who's gonna enforce it? You know what I mean?
So in this kind of system, there would be no like governing superstructure that would be able to enforce it, right? So like,
I mean, I don't know about that.
so you're saying we should have our traditional government and this as like a side thing? Because I don't think that would
No,
work.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying even in traditional government, there's different branches that deal with enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And legislation.
Well,
Like
you
there's
would.
people who make the law and people who enforce the law.
Yeah, well, I'm proposing this as an alternative to the legislative branch of government.
Exactly.
Like, so the
So there
judicial
would
and
be people who
executive.
enforce it. This
Yeah.
would just be law. Like whoever votes, that's the law.
Yeah, who imposes it now? It's the like the state.
Police and military and whatever.
Oh,
right?
we'd obviously still
That
need
makes
those.
sense.
We still need police. Like
Yeah.
the police aren't going anywhere.
Exactly. Like I don't know. That makes total sense to me. It was more as in who's gonna talk on behalf of the people, but I suppose there's no need for that when
Well, I
It's
mean,
decentralized.
it's decentralized completely, which is, I think, you need more decentralization in a modern
My
democracy.
next concern is access.
Yeah, I had a suspicion you were going to go to the access argument, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
my counter would be currently the access is so restricting that this is a like exponential improvement to what we have now. You know,
it's
like
true.
some states need like you have to go on a Tuesday. It's a work day. The polls close at 5. You need identification. This you can vote from, like, let's say there's like a tabling period, like
Hmm.
a legislation is tabled to the public for like 30 days. So in the 30 days you can vote at any time, and you voting is as simple as clicking a button on a computer.
My problem with this is not in terms of what we have now versus what this will be. It's
Mm-hmm.
more in terms of this is a decentralized process, which
Yeah.
means that there are going to be polls that are broader than a country.
What do you mean?
For example, the climate change one,
Yeah.
or anything to do with the globalized public.
Yeah.
There are huge differences in access when it comes to what we have here in the first world versus what people have in the third world. And that's, well, it's not
Okay. Okay.
discriminatory,
Okay. Wait. Okay.
but
I have
doesn't
a,
really.
I have an answer for this already. This is the thing.
Okay.
Current. Okay. Wait. Two things. First thing. Currently, already on the matter of global issues, the rich countries already have more of a say because they have seats on the UN Security Council or the UN Climate Change Council more than the developing countries,
Hmm.
and they have more dollars, so they can speak with their money and be like, "Hey, we want this to happen, so we strongly urge you to consider this and not the other one or whatever." But then that's number
Okay.
one. Number two, there's really no like computational intensive uh, requirement for the device you use to vote with. It could be a cell phone. It could be anything like that. So, I mean, it's best if you do it from a secure network, but there's no requirement that you do so. It's like you can vote, you can text your vote to the smart contract. Theoretically, this could happen, and then it would just tally your vote as well. So you don't need like a library with computers or anything for you to vote. Now I know what you're gonna say. What about like sub-Saharan Africa where they don't have anything? And I'd be like, yes, that is an edge case, but it is something we can fix in time. It's not like a flaw inherent to the system.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say, right? Like, I was going to say, well, I came up with an argument and a counter argument in my head already. It's like, I was going to say, um, like, what's the point of a system that reproduces the inequalities that we already have?
I
And then I
think.
realized that no, I don't worry. I already came up with my own counter argument.
Okay. Okay.
And I realized that like the problems that cause the inequality in this
Mm-hmm.
would be fixable to a much greater extent than the inequalities that we have, the reasons behind the inequalities
Yeah.
that we have
I mean,
currently, right?
currently the way to
Because
fix
like
inequality at the UN is like, oh, you become a developed country. Come back in 80 years when you have some say.
exactly. Whereas with this, you could just give people computers or whatever, and then you're done. They
There
have
are
access.
there
You're
are
good.
other problems. Like, I think there's a lot of technical problems we haven't dealt with yet, but I think also
But
those
that
are.
you can't. Yeah, they're fixable. It's all fixable, right? But I think the thing is that again, come to like the issue of democracy in general is that people need to be informed because I think that
Yeah,
like
I think that's the
if
greatest
one
problem.
person if one person has a lot of see the thing is it could easily be that there are charismatic leaders out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's how government works to an extent even now. And so like if someone comes up and they're really influential, everyone will just listen to whatever they say. Then that's not really a democracy.
But that's kind of what's happening now too, if you think about it.
Yeah. So like for example, imagine if like you're in a certain region and there's some kind of Jesus figure who everyone is like so infatuated with, and you're like, this person is saying the truth, capital TM, and you vote whatever they tell you to vote. Like people are not so
But I
strong-minded.
would then say there's no real Jesus. So there's nobody who has the amount of influence to like wield that over an entire population, because there would still be conflicting beliefs within a population, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, but like you
in
know what I
one
mean.
town, if somebody's like, hey, this you should vote for this because this is good for this, there will be maybe equally as many people who are like, oh, don't vote for this because this is good for this, we don't like this.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not always about. See, the thing is, Anna, it's not always about like the opinion or the validity of that opinion. It's all about who do you like more.
Yeah, but look what Trump won. It's because people liked him more than Hillary. It's not like they looked at his proposals or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying that could happen easily.
Yeah, but that's a
And is
problem
that a
with democracy
democracy?
as a whole. Like, that's a problem with democracy inherently. Like, if you use your
Yeah,
influence.
but like, I mean, if you're, I'm not saying there's no problem with democracy. Because, I mean, obviously, like, democracy is good. I like democracy. But it's like, if you're going to implement something where I guess people need to be informed, then as soon as like, okay, this is a problem and it's fixable, you need to be responsible for implementing those solutions. Like, if you're going to be responsible for bringing internet and devices to people, then you need to also be responsible for informing them. As much as there is a focus on allowing people to vote, there needs to be a process whereby there are legitimate news sources and access to those news sources and actual detailed information on the proposals that everyone can understand and stuff.
Yeah, but that's, I
You get what I'm
think,
saying?
I get what you're saying. And I agree that's a problem. But that's a problem we have now as well. And the solutions that we find out now would be equally applicable to this system because they exist outside of
Yeah,
the
I
superstructure of the
agree, but
system.
like I said, like if you're going to be nobody likes change.
That's true.
So it can't just be the same as what we have. It has to be better.
It is better. It's just not better in every single aspect because it doesn't deal with every single aspect.
Yeah, but like if you don't at least have some strategy, for example, like when I talked about access, you said, okay, bring more devices to people. I can accept that. That's easy,
Well,
right?
that's not
But you need
something
to
we
have
have
some
to
kind
do.
of actionable strategy. I'm not saying this as like when you're explaining it to me. I like the idea,
Hmm.
but I'm talking more as if you're gonna like pitch it, because see, people are going to dislike, pick everything apart and find one reason that they don't like it, and they're going to destroy you based on that. You need to have some kind of counter argument for every single thing that they can say against you.
This is purely hypothetical, of course. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, that's just what I learned in debate class. And every counter argument, you gotta have a counter argument.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, for example, the device thing is not something that needs to be actively done because that's going to happen naturally anyway. I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to get more devices regardless of whether we give it to them or not, just because they're so useful that they're going to get them anyway. Similarly,
Yeah.
like, I think now with the whole Facebook Russian tampering thing, there is currently a huge push towards having impartial news sources and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I think that's a trend that's going to continue into the future. I can't say for sure, but
Um, I don't think so.
I think
I think that's a huge minority.
of what's a huge minority.
I think the people wanting impartial news sources is a huge minority. I think if anything, news is becoming less and less impartial.
No, but I don't think the people who consume the news want the news to be partial. I think that they want news that agrees with them, so they seek out partial news unknowingly. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
there's that too. There's
So
that too, for sure.
it's like,
Like I said, like I think that news is becoming more and more partial.
but yeah, but that's, I think, a flaw with the internet rather than the news, because the internet
Isn't
allows
this
you
going to
to.
be based on the internet?
Oh no, like it's the system is hosted on the internet, but that doesn't mean it's like internet. It's like,
Yeah, but it's hosted on the internet,
well,
which
everything now.
means
Well,
yeah, which means anyone who has access to this has access to the internet, which means that they can create their own echo chamber like people I want to do.
which everybody
And
also
I'm not
does
saying we should
now.
have like, oh, you have to have this news source and you have to read this like some
Oh,
sort
no,
of
no, no,
weird
no, no, no,
communist
no,
government. But
no. But I would hope that. eh, okay, see, this is one of the problems. I will admit there are problems with the system, which I have admitted already. But one of the big problems is an informed public, which is something that democracy has been struggling with since the days of Athens. Uh, but of course, it was more manageable then. The scale now is humongous. I would hope that there would not be misinformation that was so coordinated that it would I guess
yeah,
that's an impractical
that
thing to
makes
hope for.
sense.
So that's an impractical thing to hope for because we've shown that is possible and is very much doable. And the scale of a country as big as America, 300 million people, which means it probably is scalable to the whole world.
Yeah,
So
but you
let's
know,
let's let's contrast that right now. Like now, you can call your congressman and be like, hey, I don't like this, don't vote for this proposal or whatever. Similarly, you would hope that there would be some like good Samaritans that would be like, hey, let me tell you about this. And that could be where places like YouTube and stuff like that come in to like inform people about the proposals. And granted, some of them may be partial. Let's say most of them are partial. At least you know about the topic. They can't be like some of them might be like, hey, don't vote for this purely because I said so. But you would think that the people who are like concerned enough about stuff like that to seek out people who are explaining the topic would at least consider the proposal to some extent. Does that make sense? I get
yeah,
I
I
get
get
that's an
it.
enthusiastic
I mean,
view.
it's better than now, but I think, well, the case of an informed public is bigger than the system or any system. It's
Yeah.
part of the democracy, right?
It's just something I
So
was thinking about because I read an article that they were using blockchain to vote in Sierra Leone, which turned out to be false. But it got me thinking about like how we could implement such a system.
yeah, sounds good. That's what I always thought democracy was, right?
It's not though, is it?
When we were little, we always thought, well,
Y-
we go, we show up, we say I when people say I, and then they take our opinion into account instead of this weird electoral college system, which makes no sense to me.
The electoral college just I don't think anything to do with I think the votes
You
are
know what I
still
mean?
counted.
It's like,
It just it when they made it when this democracy was created in the 18th century, they needed a way to quickly tell who won because counting the votes and communicating by land would take years.
it's a good idea. We have good ideas, and people have
Yeah.
good ideas, but we're
People
not
always have good
politicians. What's the
ideas.
point?
Well, I don't think it's the politician who's going to implement this. I think some country is going to volunteer to implement this, just like some countries volunteer to implement the renewable energy, 100% renewable energy. Did you know Portugal has been running on renewable energy for a year now?
Good for Portugal.
I know, right?
I'm glad.
There are some
No, that
other.
sounds sarcastic, but like I mean it.
Oh yeah,
I
I
like
mean
that
it's always
country
good.
that buys trash from people so they can make it,
I think it's Denmark.
yeah,
But
recycle
the
and
the problem
get
is
their
like
energy from that, whatever.
those states are like sizable states, but they're not like super states. They're not like the U.S. They're not like China. They're not like India. Like the it may be that the lessons we learn from states like this are not even applicable to much larger states.
Well, you can always try it. Try in a state as a pilot or something.
Yeah, like in Toronto they're trying the universal basic income now.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are. I saw a dude who
When?
posted a check, not for all of Toronto, obviously, for some people in Toronto.
No.
You're not gonna start a pilot in your most populous province, like.
Well, good for them. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah, but I don't think we're ready for universal basic income yet. I really don't. And by that I mean our economic output is not so substantial as to justify it. Like it's based on the assumption that AI is going to displace a lot of people, but it has not yet displaced all the people that it's going to displace. And
That's true.
it might sound, how do you say, like cruel to like wait until all of them lose their jobs and then start such a program, but like you kind of need to do that
You kind
because
of do need to do that. I agree.
one
You
you
know how
can't
I've always felt
yeah
about that.
you can't justify giving people money before they need it, And two, you can't. If you give it to them now before AI has increased our productivity, you're like destroying the economy. And this is said as someone who would very much like some universal basic income.
I agree, though. I think what needs to happen is a gradual. It's not just universal income or not, right? It's a type of social welfare. So keep increasing social
Hmm.
welfare as unemployment increases until unemployment is 100%.
Yeah, but the general proposal of universal basic income is that it would displace traditional welfare means because you can't justify
Yeah,
having both. It's not possible. Like
I know. I think it's
90% of
like
your money would be gone.
you have to like it is a type of social welfare, right?
Yeah,
So keep
definitely.
covering more and more people until you're covering everyone.
But you know what the right wingers would say to that? Let me channel the Republican in me. Why should we give lazy
The welfare
people?
state.
Why should we give lazy people money for no reason?
Yeah, well, screw 'em.
Which is a good question. Why should we give lazy people money for no reason? It doesn't make sense in your head if you think about it. You're like,
Because we can afford to.
I mean, we can afford to do a lot of things. We don't do them.
I don't know, and I don't see that. Like, I've never. The sociologist in me is not going to step up and say that people who are poor are lazy.
Yeah, but I think the people be like, oh, they have no money, so let's give them money. Wow, what a bleeding heart liberal proposal.
It is a bleeding heart liberal
It
proposal.
definitely is. But I don't think it's justifiable yet. We can't just give people
It's
money.
not justifiable yet, but you know,
The prediction is, and this is just a prediction, so it may never be justifiable, but like the prediction is that once AI like dominates most of the jobs that people would have, it becomes untenable to have jobs as a conceit, and like the majority of the population
exactly.
is going to be unemployed. Yeah,
It's
well,
not a black and white thing. It's gonna take a long time for AI to get there, just like it's gonna take a long time for the welfare state to get there.
yeah.
Or they should.
I would
That's how
really
I see
like
it
some
anyhow.
universal basic income. Not gonna lie, like it would help me out a lot. I could just do what I wanted
Let's
to do.
start with universal shelter, shall we?
I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. Also, like,
Well,
okay,
if I can do anything as an architect,
yeah, I think once they start 3D printing houses, the house cost will go down a lot. But I don't think the housing industry will like that very much.
well, architects would like that.
Would they
It's a
though?
huge, yeah, they
Because
would. It's a
actually,
huge
oh,
issue right now.
you should Google this 3D printed bridge that they made, like just to look at it. It looks really
I know
cool.
about it,
Oh, did you see it?
obviously.
Doesn't it look?
Yeah. Do you
Doesn't it
know
look
how many
amazing?
architectural magazines I follow?
Yeah, I should have guessed you'd follow more than a few architectural magazines. To be honest,
I'm an architect right now.
I think 3D printing is gonna. I think there are a lot of technologies that are in their like starting stages now that within the next like in the next half century is gonna like redefine the way
Yeah, I was
we.
gonna say 50 years.
So many, which sucks. I
It's
wish I
gonna
was
be
born
cool,
like
Anna.
I wish I was born like 2030, to be honest. So I'd be like young when the revolution hit.
No, no. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I'm just glad. I don't know. I don't think about when I wish I'd been born because there's always gonna be something better in the future to look for.
Yeah, but there's always a stagnation period. Like in the 20th century, maybe there's not. Maybe we're always marching forward.
I feel like we're always marching forward.
This is another theme
It seems
from.
stagnant to you now because you're living in it.
No, it doesn't feel stagnant to me. It feels exponentially quick, but I know that the exponentially quick always is increasing in its exponential quickness. Like in the past 5 years, our understanding of every single scientific subject has progressed a lot.
A lot.
But they're all incremental improvements. They're not what they would call step function improvements. Like they're not like, oh,
Yeah.
we jumped up another level. We're on like level 5 now. Like it's not like that. We're like level 4.2, maybe 4.5, 4.3. We're getting there, but we're not there. Like in physics, I can only talk about physics with any authority because I'm a physicist, or at least I study physics. It's like uh, there's a quantum theory and then like general relativity, and never the twain shall meet. But we know that there needs to be a theory that incorporates these two, and we don't know what will
Mm.
happen when we find it. Which I think it exists, like a similar situation exists in a lot of fields where it's like we know there is something that we don't know, but we haven't found it yet. But when we do find it, ooh boy, things are going to change.
I don't know, Anna.
You don't
I
think
don't
so?
like thinking about when I'd wish, or
Oh no,
rather,
I don't.
what
I don't.
period of the stagnation period I want to be born in, because there are pros and cons to both. Exponential change can be hard too.
Yeah, but I like change though, so I don't mind. I know some people really don't.
I mean, maybe this is the growth phase. How do you know this isn't the stagnation? That this is the stagnation phase?
The stagnation phase realistically is already in our past, and as if we look at the
Yeah,
entirety of human history, for 10,000 years we did basically nothing, and then
we did a lot,
we invented
but I mean,
agriculture, and then things went up from there. I know you don't
well, I
like
mean,
agriculture.
people did a lot before that. We've always been innovating on now. And even when it seems like there's gonna be some big new thing, it just seems like that because we're living in it. When we look back, agriculture was a big new thing, but like now it so seems so normal, right?
No, but we can understand how agriculture changed the game, right? Agriculture like
It did.
completely destroyed
But
everything
so
that
did a
came
lot
before
of
it.
things, and now
No, I know there's a lot of things that changed it. What I'm saying is,
like the internet.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, the internet in terms of like technological history is a relatively new creation, right? We haven't
Yeah,
fully
exactly.
realized its potential yet, but we know that it has almost infinite
Potential.
potential. So like,
Well, this has been nice, Anna. But it's 7:30. I need to write my essay.
okay, fine, go right. Yes,
Are you gonna be okay on your lonesome, Anna? Do you want to keep talking to me about the Anthropocene?
please don't. I don't like anthropology for whatever reason.
Well, you just talked about the Anthropocene, so.
I call it the technolocene. It's new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
Hmm.
the Anthropocene.
What about when the robots take over? What do you call that? The
It's
robocene?
still part of the Anthropocene.
But it's not though, because it's not humans are not influencing things anymore. It's all the robots.
And now, didn't humans make robots?
Yeah, but then if you take a religious thing, the entire thing is just like the God scene because he made all of us supposedly.
Yeah, but humans exist.
Yeah. Ooh, stiff burn, stiff burn.
Anthropologists are not about that life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you study
There are
humankind,
people who think it's the God scene. So I
really?
don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
there are
Yeah.
people who think the world was made like 30 years ago and the dinosaur fossils are all like planted.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. If you go up to like a really person, this is all the God scene.
I watched a movie about some uh,
No,
preacher
no, no.
yesterday.
No new topic. I have to go.
Okay, shitty. Go, bye. Right, essay.
Bye.
Okay, peace. How do I off this thing?
Yes, you have to hang up.
I
I
have
don't
to
hang
hang
up
up?
on people.
Okay, I'll hang up
Yeah.
then. Okay, bye.
Bye.